Chapter 7. When Jeffrey Magee was next spotted, it was at the Little League field in the park. A Little League game had just ended. The Red Sox had won, but the big story was John McNabb, who struck out 16 batters to set a new 2 Mills LL record. McNabb was a giant. He stood 5 feet 8 and was said to weigh over 170 pounds. He had to bring his birth certificate into the Little League director to prove he was only 12, and still most people didn't believe it. The point is, the rest of the league was no match for McNabb. It wouldn't have been so bad if he'd been a right fielder, but he was a pitcher, and there was only one pitch he ever threw, a fastball. Most of the batters never saw it. They just heard it whizzing past their noses. You could see their knees shaking from the stands. One poor kid stood there long enough to hear strike one go past, then threw up all over home plate. It was still pretty light out because when there are a lot of strikeouts, a game goes fast. And McNabb was still on the mound, even though the official game was over. He figured he'd made baseball history, and he wanted to stretch it out as long as he could. There were still about 10 players around, Red Soxers and Green Soxers, and McNabb was making them march up to the plate and take their swings. There was no catcher. The ball just zoomed to the backstop. When a kid struck out, he went back to the end of the line. McNabb was loving it. After each whiff, he laughed and bellowed the strikeout total. 26, 27, 28. He was like a shark. He had the bloodlust. The victims were hunched and trembling, walking the gangplank. 24, 25. And then somebody new stepped up to the plate. Just a punky, runty little kid. No Red Sox or Green Sox uniform. Kind of scraggly, with the book, which he laid down on home plate. He scratched out a footing in the batter's box, cocked the bat on his shoulder, and stared at McNabb. McNabb croaked from the mound. "Get out of there, Runt. This is a Little League record. You ain't in Little League." The kid walked away. Was he chickening out? No. He was lifting a red cap from the next batter in line. He put it on. He was back in the box. McNabb almost fell off the mound. He was laughing so hard. "Okay, Runt. Number 36 coming up." McNabb fired. The kid swung. The batters in line automatically turned their eyes to the backstop, where the ball should be. But it wasn't there. It was in the air, riding on a beeline right out to McNabb's head. The same line it came in on, only faster. McNabb froze, then flinched, just in time. The ball missed his head but nipped to the bill of his cap and sent it spinning like a flying saucer out to shortstop. The ball landed in the second base dust and rolled all the way to the fence in center field. Dead silence. Nobody moved. McNabb was gaping at the kid, who still stand who was still standing there all calm and cool, waiting for the next pitch. Finally, a sort of grin slithered across McNabb's lips. He roared, "Get my hat! Get the ball!" 10 kids scrambled onto the field, bringing him the hat and ball. McNabb had it figured out now. He was so busy laughing at the runt, he lobbed him a lollipop, and the runt got lucky and pulled it. This time McNabb wasn't laughing. Fingered the ball, tips digging into the red stitching. He wound, he fired, he thought, "Man, that sucker's going so fast even I can hardly see it." And then he was looking up, turning, following the flight of the ball, which finally came down to the earth in deep left center field and bounced onto the fence.